Hello grade 7s. So this video is for our math lesson 7.3 and it's for adding and subtracting mixed numbers and it's part 1. So we're just working on some parts of it today. You'll notice that it starts off looking very similar to what we were doing last time. We've got two fractions, they've got different denominators. A bit of a curveball is going to happen here in a second, but let's first make them have a common denominator so we can add them together. So I'll notice that I can just double this one. I can multiply top and bottom by 2, and that will make it so that it's going to be 8 out of 10. And I can, of course, take that 8 out of 10 and add it to 9 out of 10. And what I get for an answer is going to be 17 out of 10. Now that's an improper fraction. The numerator, the top number, is bigger than the denominator. And in math, just like we like everything in lowest terms, we also usually like things as a mixed number. So we like the whole number to be outside the fraction if possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the whole out of this fraction and put it as a whole number. Now the fraction is out of 10, which means that a whole is 10 out of 10. 10 slices out of a 10 slice pizza is a whole pizza. What I've got here is 17 of those pizza slices, so there's more than a whole pizza here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 10 out of there. I'm going to make that a whole. So I put a big 1 for that. Because I took 10 out of here, I have to think to myself, 17 take away 10. Well, that's going to leave me with 7. So what I have here is 1 whole and 7 out of 10. I can double check to make sure this is in lowest terms. In this case it is. And so I've got 1 whole and 7 out of 10. This is an answer as a mixed number. This is an answer as an improper fraction, and we want our answers to be mixed numbers from now on. So let's take a look at the next one here. Once again, I gotta make these things have a common denominator before I can use it. So I multiply top and bottom of this one by 5. 3 times 5 is going to be 15. 4 times 5 is going to be 20. And now this one over here, I'm gonna multiply top and bottom by 4. 4 times 4 is going to be 16. 4 times 5 is going to be 20. I can now add them together. The tops, the numerators get added together. So it's going to give me an answer of 31 out of 20. Once again, I have an improper fraction. So what I need to do is take an amount that is equal to a whole out of it. Now this time the fraction is out of 20. So a whole is basically 20 out of 20. So how many 20 out of 20s can I take out of here? Well, I can take 1 out of there. It's going to make for 1 whole, or 1 whole pizza if you like to think of it that way. So I'm going to take 20 out of here, 31 take away 20, leaves me with 11. So I've got 1 whole and 11 out of 20. That's how much is left. And once again, I have my answer as a mixed number. And that's the way that we want it to be. This one too is already in lowest terms, so I don't need to change that fraction again. We got another one over here. This time I can just change this one. Of course, 6 is a multiple of 2. I can make this thing, if I multiply top and bottom by 3, I can make it so that I can add them together. So it's always nice when I can leave one of the fractions alone and only change one of them. So if I multiply top and bottom by 3, it's going to be 3 out of 6. And I can now add them together. It's equal to 8 out of 6. Once again, I have an improper fraction, so I'm going to take a whole out of it. The pizza in this case has been sliced into 6 portions, and there's more than 6 out of 6 portions there. So I'm going to take a 6 out of 6. I'm going to take that out of there. 8 take away 6, so that's going to give me a whole. Leaves me with 2 out of 6. But this time, I'm not quite done. Notice how 2 out of 6, that's not lowest terms. I can still divide top and bottom by 2. Notice how the 1 whole just stays there. When I turn a mixed number into lowest terms, the 1 whole just stays right there. And this one will become, because I divide top and bottom by 2, it's going to become 1 out of 3. And that's how we add fractions that give us a mixed number answer. So we're going to take a look at subtraction next. On the page now, I've got some fractions, and each of them is starting with a mixed number, and then we're subtracting something from it. So just like any other time that we're adding and subtracting fractions, before I do anything else to them, I have to make sure that they have a common denominator, that they have the same bottom number. So what can I multiply top and bottom of this one by? What can I multiply top and bottom of this one by? Well, this one is going to be multiplied by 2 on the top and bottom. This one's going to be multiplied by 3. So 2 times 1 gives me a 2. 2 times 3 gives me a 6. The 1 whole does not get multiplied. It just stays there. These two, 1/3 and 2/6, they're equivalent fractions. The 1 whole, whatever it is, stays as a 1 whole. Nothing changes about it. Over here, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 3. It becomes 3/6. And now I'm in real trouble. Because if I take a look what I've got over here, I'm trying to take 2/6 and I'm going to subtract 3/6 away from it. 3/6 is more than 2/6. So I'm going to have to borrow from this whole. So how much is this whole worth, given that each of these slices is out of 6? Well, a whole is basically the same thing in this case as 6/6, right? So I'm going to take that 6/6, I'm going to take it away from the whole, I'm going to add it up into the numerator. So that whole number is going to be gone now. It'll be gone. I cut it into 6 slices, I add it to the 2. It is now 8/6. I've basically taken that mixed number and I've turned it into an improper fraction. The reason I'm doing this is so that I can subtract these fractions now. So 8/6, take away 3/6, that leaves me with 5/6, and that answer already is in lowest terms, and so it's good. So some things to note here: when I was unable to subtract these numbers, I had to borrow from the whole. I knew how much to add into it, into the numerator, because a whole in this case is the same thing as a 6/6. So I basically added 6 to 2, and it got me 8. And that's how I'm able to do 8/6, take away 3/6. We've got a similar problem on this one. This time I've got 2/5 and 7/10. This is the only fraction I'll need to change. I can make this one out of 10 by multiplying top and bottom by 2. So I've got 1 whole, and I've got 4/10. And I'm able to subtract 7/10. Once again, I can't do that on the top. 4 take away 7, it's not going to work. So what I can do is I can take that whole number there, and I'm going to borrow from it. I'm going to imagine that that's like a whole pizza, and I slice it up into 10 slices. So I got 10/10 slices from that whole. I'm going to take that 10, I'm going to add it to 4. I've now got 14/10, and I'm subtracting 7/10. 14 take away 7, leaves me with 7 again. So there are 7/10 slices left. So 7/10 is the lowest terms number, so it's already good to go. My last one here is 1.5, take away 5/7. Once again, I need to make the denominators the same first before I'm able to subtract these things. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to multiply top and bottom of this one by 7. So I'm going to do 1 times 7, that's 7. 2 times 7, that's going to be 14. And my 1 whole just stays there. It does not get multiplied by 7. It just stays right there. 1/2 and 7/14, those two are equivalent. The 1 whole just stays as 1 whole. And it's right there beside the fraction. This one too, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 2. 2 times 5 is going to be 10. 2 times 7 is going to be 14. And I've come across that same problem again. So I need to be able to somehow do 7 take away 10. So I'm going to borrow from this one. What would be a whole in this case? Well, it would be 14/14, because that is the denominator we're working with, and 14/14 is a whole. So I'm going to take 14/14 out of that whole. I'm going to put it into the numerator. 14 plus 7 gives me 21. So I've got 21/14, and I'm going to take away 10/14, and it's going to leave me with 11/14. And this one is also already in lowest terms. There's nothing I can divide the top and bottom by to make it so that it can go any lower.